welcome back to another episode of the Empowered Intuitive Academy podcast. I am one of your hosts, Tayla Henderson, also known as the Kynoch Witch, and with me is my beautiful co-host, Petra Costa from When Magic Awakes. And today we are chatting about chakras and energy healing. This is a bit more fucking interesting than we thought it would be. There's
some stupid cow at the end of last episode, I think it was, said, "Oh, we've got an exit one."
Yes.
No. Oh, did I not jinx myself there?
Be a short episode like we were hoping. And you know what? I'm actually really grateful for that. I'm really glad for it because in both of our research for this, we learned some shit. Our understanding of this topic was broadened. It hit some little pressure points within us about what the self when it comes to this type of thing. So, I mean, we hope you enjoy this as much as we have looking into it and how much we will enjoy sharing it with you. So, fuck, where do we even start?
We start with taking whatever we thought we knew and assuming that we might be right with what we know, but we are not correct in why we know it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The history behind it and the way we've interlinked things that weren't originally interlinked, and we've just done that for – I'm not saying why we've done it but we have done it in terms of linking Reiki and chakras together and making them almost synonymous.
Yeah.
When they actually don't have the same origins.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with taking knowledge and combining it. That's what we do all the time with, our modern science, right? You learn something new, you combine it. Nothing wrong with that. As long as you nod back to where you've gotten the info from and then they've come from different sources.
Yes.
That's where this is where I got triggered in all of this.
Yeah.
Because I sort of knew. I knew Reiki was a Japanese tradition. I knew chakras came from somewhere else that we'll go into more detail.
Yeah.
My brain had never bothered to sort of assimilate that.
Yeah.
Because everything I'd ever learned and everything I'd ever read, they were spoken about almost as that they were 100% a part of each other and that one went peas and carrots. Yes. Reiki and chakras were like peas and carrots.
Yep.
But guess what?
There's a big old steak on that plate that nobody bothered to mention about. And there's a few more veggies in there than just peas and carrots.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and I think the main point in that is that there has been such a desire to standardize what we consider to be modern energetic healing that it has forsaken its cultural and spiritual origins, which is really important to know because if you don't know about it, you don't know where those systems come from and you don't understand the inner workings of those systems. And so looking into chakras, we know from a base level that chakras are of Hindu spirituality and Buddhist as well, Tibetan. It's an Eastern healing tradition or modality. Now, everybody sort of knows that there's the base 7 chakras and they all have a different corresponding color, usually are likened to the rainbow. So you've got your crown, you've got your third eye.
I've got my thing here.
Throat, your heart, your solar plexus.
Look at me go.
And your root. And yeah, like the little banner thing Petra's holding up for YouTube.
Try to hold up.
Try to hold the colors up for the rainbow flag, new rainbow work. Yeah. So there's that general knowledge, and that they align down the spine, and that they correspond with different parts of our energetic and psychic well-being, right?
Mm-hmm. We all know that.
Yes. And we all know that the word chakra is a Sanskrit word, which means fiery disc or a sun symbol or a spinning wheel. And what we don't really recognize is that in the formation of chakras, that spinning wheel, that vortice action is actually really important, because chakras are derived from the seer's observations of natural, energetic, and physical vortexes within nature. So when we hear about chakras being likened to whirlpools of water, literally whirlpools of water moving that energy around. I'm getting my waterbender movements on because I'm really
You are.
I'm really trying to portray, how these things are moving.
Yep.
Air tornadoes and cyclones, and even how sand funnels down a hole on the beach and stuff. Like all of these natural occurrences of vortexes, energetically and physically, is how the chakras were observed within nature and then within the energetic body. And this practice and this noting, this knowledge dates all the way back to 3000 BC. So this is ancient wisdom that we're tapping.
Ancient. Yeah.
The chakras. And by Hindu cosmology, in the Vedas, which are their sacred texts, which we as Westerners did not have access to until about the 19th century, mind you. So we've not had knowledge of this prior to then. And if we did, it was very much in a passing by fashion. But the vortexes are where two or more channels of energy meet so that this vortex is created. And for me, that just blew me out, because I'm like, I can see that throughout our universe.
Yes.
Our last podcast, we were talking about friggin' ocean freaking portals in the deep sea, and you've got the Milky
We mentioned them in our planets podcast when we were talking about how the planets actually move.
Exactly.
There are so many things where we've mentioned this.
We're just going
beautiful, and that's why I put my spiral ring on today.
Exactly.
Just to go. It looks like
flow of energetic movement is so prevalent in our universe, and this is what the yogis were picking up on back in 3000 BC, right?
Can I just say one thing? What's really critical, and I'm not going to go off on a tangent, what's really critical of what you said there, people can make a mental note of it, is where energy forces merge.
Yes.
Merge. Remember that.
They join together. They move in one, even though there might be different forces. Mm-hmm. We're going to fuel into a little bit more about what we're talking about here. But so that's pretty much the premise of chakras. Now, it might blow some people out, but listen to this. Listen to this shit. There are more than 7. There are
more than 7.
There are about 14 other mapped out vortexes which you can tap into to cleanse, clear, and channel energy within your energetic body. And they branch out to other little vortexes and other little energy centers throughout the body, right? Let's give a practical example. Your root chakra is responsible for funneling and channeling the energy throughout your legs, your knees, and your feet, and your muscles, and your nervous system that goes through the lower half of your body, your waist and your hips. There is more than just one center that needs to be cleansed and cleared, which is not something that I learned during my time of learning about chakra healing. You literally just learn about the straight narrow column. And there's actually 3 major branches coming off this chakra system that dictates the flow of energy within the body. And I use this because this is how they flow. So there's
much like the intertwining serpents of modern medicine.
Of the Caduceus.
Yes.
And the Kundalini, which is quite popular nowadays. And everyone just chalks that down to Kundalini energy, which literally means coiled up in Sanskrit, referring to the hibernating snake, the spiral, which sits in your root chakra down the bottom. But it comes up to coil around these other 3 chakra systems. And so you've got the Ida, which is the lunar energy, the purifying, the healing energy, the smooth energy. And then you've got, which is the left channels. And then you've got the Pingala, which is the right channels. And this is solar energy. This is fire. This is passion. And then you've got the
Shushumna.
Shushumna. It's the bridge between the two of them, and it is the column and the chakra cruncher that holds everything together, which I found fascinating because, again, we've got this masculine, feminine, lunar, solar energy mixing, intertwining, but it's bridged to one another, and it's not
absolutely
clearly defined. So there's that aspect of chakras and the whole Vedic healing system that I don't know about you, but I was unaware of before. And you know what else blew me out? The little lotus petals on the sides of the symbols, they're actually little directional arrows into where the flow.
They mean stuff. They all mean stuff. That's the thing. There's so much hidden messaging here, and we have just blown over the top of it because we've gotten excited by 7 pretty colors that we've locked down to our visual spectrum, and we've gone, oh, I can understand that in terms of frequency and in terms of this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But in terms of what you're talking about before with the Ida and the Pingala and the Shushumna, they're actually called nadis. And the nadis are an energy framework that goes through the body. Yeah. And there are supposed to be 72,000 separate nadis that run through. So to say 7 chakras might be a bit of an oversimplification.
That's
really not accurately defining. We need a new word for oversimplification. So this is what I got. And I would be embarrassed right now if I had to show everybody my Google search history on this. Like, I would literally be embarrassed. And I can honestly say, if for people out there of how much research that goes into these podcast topics, it's insane. So I've literally been into about 150 different websites. Of those 150, probably 100 of them are rubbish. They're just the same regurgitated information over and over and over again. But I found this really good one that's talking about the prana, which is the Indian philosophy of the vital airs or the energies that come through the body, which prana is a word that from Sanskrit means breath.
Yes.
And having said that, there's lots of different definitions. And we are making the assumption every time we put a definition against these words, we are underplaying the fact that these words have multiple definitions. And we're just taking the one that most likely fits what we want it to mean, because they mean lots of different things. So if you were actually to speak to someone and you said, what does prana mean? If you talk to a Westerner, they'll say one thing, but a person who understands, Indian philosophy, they'll give you 20 different meanings for these words. Exactly. But the body's vital airs or energies, a central conception in early Hindu philosophy, particularly as expressed in the Upanishads. Prana was held to be the principle of vitality and was thought to survive a person's last breath for eternity or until a future life. Okay, beautiful. Mm-hmm. Pranas, nadis, and chakras are part of the energy network that forms the energetic body. The prana energy flows through the body in channels known as nadis. And this is literally energy healing for dummies we're doing here. There are 72,000 nadis in the human body from which energy flows to and from the chakra centers. Now, going back to what you said before, Tay, where these beautiful serpentine coils of energy flow down through us or up through us, or let's not get bogged down with up and down here, because our whole concept of up and down on this is wrong. With that, it's where they intersect. All of these things intersect that we get a chakra point. The vortex that we've got is created by these energy flows that are intersecting.
It's like a little energetic roundabout.
It's like a roundabout. It's like a roundabout. And it's like one of those crazy ass roundabouts that there's not, you take the third exit. It's like take the 75th exit.
Yeah. The ones with multiple lanes, and you're like, oh my fucking God.
You're like, I don't want to do it. I didn't want to go straight, but I'm going straight.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do a U-turn and come back.
Yeah.
So this particular website I found was really explained it in a way that sort of like I went, oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Now, the three main sources of prana are the sun, the earth, and the cosmos.
Oh.
And it's these sources called universal prana that we get in different forms like food, air, water, and sunlight.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Now, it's also said to be, and there's some theories around this in relation to the fact that you can take on this energy when you go to sacred places, or where you've got people that are all praying or thinking or focusing on the same thing, they can actually create a pranic energy, but it's not the base one that we're talking about here when we're doing this. So I found that just so interesting. I got exactly the same thing you got in terms of the three main fields. Again, this is where I got triggered because we're talking about Indian philosophy, Hinduist belief. It goes back for the ages. And still we have to refer to it as yin and yang. Now, I'm not saying that's not accurate in our modern scope of what we've made yin and yang a synonym for masculine, feminine. That's what we've done. But the Indian philosophy has their own words for it.
Yes.
And that's where I'm sort of like, could you not have referenced the correct terminology and then made a note, like made a little note to say, or as in Chinese philosophy, it's called X.
Yes.
Why couldn't we do that? It's an extra 10 words.
Exactly. And it's like you're trying to paraphrase this form of spiritual practice and energetic healing, insert like thesaurus synonym.
Exactly. And I just
we have traditions that cross over through cultures. I mean, we're all of the same physical body, and we relatively all have the same energetic body. So of course we're going to get crossovers and terminologies and things. But if you're going to quote a practice, ancient practice that has this shit fleshed out, you don't need to be layering over the top of it and, filtering it per se with other culturally.
No. And if you are going to do that, Tay, you do it to give it weight.
Yes.
To say to yourself that, okay, this is where it originated. Here's my respect and my nod. This is where it originated. And you know what? In a completely different culture, the same thing has come about with observing virtually the same things. And there was something similar in Egypt. Were doing very similar things with their reflexology, which we'll get into later. But all I'm saying is it's not so hard. And I've written it down here because I didn't want to be one of those disrespectful people. So my understanding from what I've found is that the yin energy is yoni, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And the masculine energy is called linga.
Yes.
What I've got. So I just want to say that let's just use the correct terminology where we can, or when we're not using it, when we're just using it as a synonym.
You know what's funny with that is that those terms directly relate to the Hindu mythologies of Shiva and Shakti, which are their primary god and goddess of the Hindu pantheon. Those energetic archetypes actually really come into play with Tantra, which is another Hindu, Buddhist tradition, spiritual practice that has really made a massive sort of resurgence or gained popularity in the Western realm. And
I didn't go into this one, and I have stated the reason I didn't investigate this one, and I blame it all on one of my favorite song masters of Sting, and the fact that every freaking interview he ever went on, he had to talk about his 4-hour tantric sex sessions with his lady. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to know.
And that's half the problem with like the tantra movement at the moment. It's literally been perverted to just solely focus on sex, when in fact it's I mean, that's a part of it, yes, but the purpose of tantra and the ancient tantrikas or the magicians of tantra will teach you, and even Buddhist monks follow tantra. So let's go. And
it's about breath too, isn't it? It's a lot about breath, isn't it? And about
breath and connecting your cosmic being with your mundane being. It's about allowing yourself to experience that enlightenment and liberation of self through a concept that is called moksha, through allowing yourself the pleasures in life and allowing yourself to explore and experience and sense and, explore your realm in its entirety without shaming or persecuting, and in order to reach that state of wholesomeness and liberation and whatnot. But it literally
focuses. So the journey to enlightenment through tantra is completely different than other spiritual journeys that have been put forward, where you have to negate everything that relates to our
tantra says
mundane body.
Tantra says do it all. Tantra says dance in the field and scream out loud and have those long 4-hour meditation sessions, and do it all. Do what brings you revelation and insight and makes you feel free. And the concept in itself is beautiful, and it does speak to this union of masculine and feminine through the Shiva, through the Shakti, the Yoni and the Linga, and and bridging that. And which, I mean, yes, sex is a physical part of that, but it's more than that. It's about bridging it within yourself. And
again, are we not coming back? Are we not coming back to our episode on masculine and feminine? Like, guys, the light's being shone at us from in so many different directions, and we just really just don't want to take it in. Yes. We just really don't want to take it in.
Yes.
Yeah. I've got here one thing I wanted to go through just quickly, because and so that we can just flesh out this a little bit more. In terms of these energy, so we got what did I say they were called? Those energy lines, the nadis that flow through. They also describe the prana energy as this beautiful, the 5 pranas, or the 5 vayus, and the 5 winds, which I just love, because we're not trying to use someone else's word. We're giving us a change. Love it. These are very similar. They sit, there's 5 of them. They sit in our body. They, again, like we said, it's not just like a root chakra that's just there. It's just controlling the bottom part of the body, that kind of thing. I'm just going to go to them quickly. We've got the Udana, which I've actually got it in a picture here, so you get a bit of an idea. It's also linked to the chakras there. We've got Udana is located in the throat, and it lets the flow circulate from the head and the neck. Speech, expression, growth. The prana wind is centered in the 3rd eye, and the energy expands out through the chest. Now, this is why I wanted to mention this, because we're not going to take all this data in and become experts in the 5 winds, right?
No.
But what we can learn from this is these energy, the winds that are running with this energy through our body, doesn't run in a straight line.
No.
And this is where I'm like, and it's not even just a vortex. It's not as simple as a spiral. Yeah. And this is what I found, like, if anything I've taken away from learning about this part of it, like really understanding the chakras a little bit more, is I've never felt comfortable with the whole straight line methodology, where it's a straight central line. I'm just like, nothing in our body, even the spine, isn't straight.
No.
That's just not, it's just not how we work. Nature almost abhors a straight line. It doesn't like it.
It does.
And I'm like Stephen King has said it so many times. And what I loved about this, and I'm just going to go through the one at the top, the Udana, is an upward energy. It flows upwards. Prana energy, which is around here in the throat chakra. And for people on YouTube, you can understand what I'm doing, but it's the throat around the throat chakra, moves in an upward direction. Samana, which sits almost around your chest region, like your lower chest, your abdominal sacral chakra kind of region, is a beautiful curling, twisting mass. Yes.
The spiral of the goddess that you see a little bit, like just that central.
Does that not automatically, without even thinking, just sound more right for want of using English? I just love that. Then you've got Vyana. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. And this is down lower. It centers on the heart and lungs, but it sits down lower. Multi-directional. There is no bounds to it. It shoots off.
Yes, and you actually bring up a really, really good point there, because we know from other practices like meridians, right, which are like kind of like I kind of understood them initially as like ley lines coming through your body, connecting the different, railroad tracks to the other railroad tracks. And there are lines that literally go down your hands and your fingers that are connecting back up to your heart and your lung space. And you can tap into those to heal here. And I just think that it speaks to the connectiveness of these energetic systems that we have just totally whitewashed.
You wait till I get down to when we talk about meridians, and I'm going to blow you away. But anyway, just the last one I got to do is Apana, and that sits on your pelvic floor, and it has downward energy. And just the reason I think this is important to note is because I did a Reiki course and came out, having Reiki 1, 2, and blah, blah, blah. I was taught energy flows through and black up, and that's, that you open up and you allow the universal energy. And I'm not saying that's not right, and that might work beautifully for a lot of people. What I'm saying is you were never given the option that if you felt a little bit of chaos, maybe not chaos, but you felt a little bit something going on differently in different points, we were given the impression that it was blocked, or it was out of balance, or etc. And I think understanding that these energies flow the way energy does, which is often in quite an erratic fashion, is quite liberating, because it makes me feel like I haven't been doing it wrong. I haven't been feeling it wrong, that perhaps just my understanding of it was incorrect. And I was trying to fit it into a box when it's got more sides than that.
And I think that's too, that we've come across these concepts which are really quite expansive. They're vast. They've got so much depth to them. And I don't know if it's because we're fucking lazy or we can't be bothered, but we've just scooped the top off of what makes sense and then left the rest. We've left the depth. And I'm like, for me personally, I'm like you, I just can't feel into that. I need to know more. I need to
know more.
Why are there 7 rainbow dinner plates circling within my body? What is that feeding into? Like, what is
and who classified it as such? Where? Now, we're now understanding that it was classified from a lot of research, a lot of observation over thousands of years. So let's not undermine the fact that this is over thousands of years.
Exactly.
So do we need to go through the chakras if we told people what they are?
We told people at the start, but there's something
I didn't realize if we so I'm just going to go, because I'm working methodically down my spreadsheet.
Talked about like the typical correspondences.
Okay. So if we don't need to go through it, that's fine. But yeah, obviously you go through the root from bottom coming up. Root chakra associated with the color red, element earth. Sacral chakra, I'm going to have to make sure I get it right. Color orange, element water. We come up to the solar plexus. For people who want to know more, we can give you more detail on this in terms of actually doing the energy healing. This is more about the origins. Go through to solar plexus, yellow, fire. Heart chakra comes up. Color is green, but also green and or pink. Element is air. Throat chakra comes up. Color is blue. element is space, is what I've got here, but I think that's also synonymous with energy, isn't it? Just general energy, I think. And then the third eye chakra I've got here, the color is indigo, and the element, it doesn't have one. There's no elemental association in that particular viewpoint. Oh, and I forgot crown. It's because I've never reached it. So, so that color is a violet white. Yeah.
Funny with the heart chakra, actually, which I learned today. Like, when you talk about chakra healing, you talk about like the outer heart chakra, which is like your external connections and your relationship to the world and to others. And then you've got your inner heart chakra, which is that pink, which a lot of people will liken with like inner child or whatever, but it really is, in the traditional sense, your spiritual heart, and it has its own name. It is called the Ananda Kanda.
That's beautiful.
And I fucking love that. And I will never think of it anything else except my spiritual heart. But in saying that as well, your heart chakra is the bridge to your upper chakras and your lower chakras.
So this is all pretty cool.
It's fucking cool.
But you know what we've done here? We have actually spoken only about chakras.
Yes.
Chakras the energetic network that's made up by the Hinduist beliefs and the Indian culture originating from, that has moved on into other things, incorporated into Reiki, incorporated into a lot of Western stuff. But what I'd like to quickly go, if you don't mind me branching off, is that we're going into Japanese. Now, again, everybody, if I could show you my search history, I've got about 20 searches where I just tried to work out the correct word, whether it was ki, whether it was chi, what was the word. And I've got to tell you, just for the fact that, to explain that the World Wide Web is broken, is the fact that I could not get a definitive answer on that. Like, what kind of question is that to ask that you can't get an answer on? But anyway, what Japanese word for spirit and energy, and it also means a shit ton of other things, as the Japanese language is broken down. The nuance is it's impossible for us to convert it to one or two English words. So and this is where we really hurt ourselves by thinking we understand what it means and saying, oh, it comes from the Japanese for this. Anyone who's even tried to have someone explain Japanese to them, even a couple of words, the nuance is insane. So we'll just go for the purposes of what we're talking about. It's ki, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly because that's what I found on the internet. They believe exactly the same thing in terms of the spiritual energy.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if it's Indian culture, Japanese culture with ki, Chinese culture with chi. They all have this concept that it is this energy, this universal energy that comes through us.
Yeah.
And I will also point out, though, that in Chinese, if you talk about, it's spelt CHI as in chi, what you would think is chi, but it's not pronounced that way. It's pronounced ki, is what I have found in my research. It can also mean Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
So the word can mean, it's not all about universal energy. Depending on the belief systems of the person using the word is given nuance so that it can mean it can mean what you want it to mean in terms of an energy.
Well, that makes sense, because Reiki is actually like two words meshed into one, with the key on the end being the spirit energy and the essence, and the ray, which
I think it means universal, doesn't it?
Universal. Yes. That's what it's translated into for sake of teaching, is universal energy.
Yes.
Reiki. Yeah. So that makes yeah.
And I love that somebody bothered to mention that in one of their websites, where they bothered to mention the fact that these words can actually also mean Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
So it's that one that shows us the level of fluidity there is around language. So whenever people say 100% this means this, you got it wrong. You might have it right contextually in this instance, but you're oversimplifying it again. And please, can we stop doing that? So I love that. What they had in Japanese originally around their energy, from what I can gather from their energy healing from their martial arts that were all driven, because most of the martial arts came about from capturing this vital energy and being able to convert it.
Oh, yes.
Exactly. They had what they called the three diamonds, the three tandems, which is what they were called in Japan, which is like an elixir field. Love that terminology of elixir field. And in China, it was called a dantian, which if you looked at it, looks like Dantane, but it's dantian is how it's pronounced. So what they had was, there's lots of them, but the main three is the lower, which is crossing behind, and it's actually linked to acupressure points and the perineum. It's called the golden stove, and it's the elixir of life field. And when we come into Chinese energy work, we start dabbling in the meridians, which is beautiful.
Kind of funny that it's a golden stove of life giving.
Yep.
That's kind of like the Western cauldron, you know?
Yeah. Beautiful.
I love
that. The middle one, which is at the level of your heart, is called the Crimson Palace, and is associated with storing spirit and respiration and health, and that is around your thymus gland. Now, this is where it's interesting, because I'm going to get to the last one. So the upper, I've forgotten how to pronounce it already. God, where did I put it? Dantian. The upper one is the forehead between the eyebrows and the third eye, which is called the muddy pellet, and is associated with the pineal gland.
The pineal gland. Yeah, so I found a similar thing with the chakras and where they're aligned in regards to the gland. So crown chakra being the pineal gland, which is located in the midbrain, responsible for the secretions of serotonin and regulating emotions and things like that. And then you got the brow or the third eye, which is the ajna chakra, which is located with where the pituitary gland is, which is like right behind the bridge of your nose. That is the conductor of like all the other little endocrine processes and chemicals and things. That train analogy. And then we got the throat, so that's the thyroid and the parathyroid glands, which are located either side of your trachea, which is this little bit here. And then that controls metabolism. And then you've got the heart, which balances your upper and lower chakras, as I mentioned before, but it's linked with the circulatory and the immune systems through the thymus gland, which is located behind the breastbone. So there. Solar plexus is the pancreas, located behind the diaphragm, which is this little piece below the breastbone. And that's responsible for the regulation of glucose and your energy. So it makes sense with that solar fusion of the solar plexus. Sacral chakra, located below the umbilicus, so your belly button, and that's aligned with the adrenal and the reproductive glands or gonads. And then we've got your base and root, which is located where the adrenal glands are, and they titrate the stimulation required to perform day-to-day activities. So
I just think it's amazing when you delve a little deeper that you find that it's not just about saying, oh, this works for your adrenal system. Like, you need to open this chakra, you need to do this color crystal, you need to do this if you've got any issues with that. It's actually linked to something that when this was talked about, we wouldn't have known about those things.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have known it. We wouldn't have been in it. Say that we had, these different things here, but we've already worked it out.
Even with that, like there's so much shit around there. These like little graphics and things that go, oh, your chakra is associated with this, this, and this, and this, but no one's asking why. Why that's associated with that. They just sort of accept it as this like trend or whatever, and then they think because they know that they have this all-rounded understanding, and then they go out and heal people, and I'm like, but you're not asking the questions.
You're not asking the right questions. And like
medical training from when I was a registered nurse, we got in deep shit if we didn't ask the questions. We needed to know what connected with what and why.
Exactly. And
how is energetic medicine different? It's not. It's all systems.
It's all the same. And this is it. Two things came up to me today. Or actually, no, three people that came up that I respect greatly. Socrates and his Socratic method of having someone explain something to you and then having the option to question them.
Yes.
To come back and ask a whole lot of questions and to formulate this way of, you try to break down their argument so you can find out whether there's truth in their argument, right? So I go, thank you very much, Socrates, for that.
Yeah.
I also looked at my mate Albert, with Albert Einstein, when we were talking about just the concepts of energy. Now, I don't think I went through this at the start, but I got stuck with energy, with the whole, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another, which makes the whole concept, that was an Albert Einstein quote, makes the whole concept of energy make more sense.
Yeah.
Right? I then went through all of the laws of thermodynamics, which we don't need to go into here.
But of course, we're going to touch on it because this is an Empowered Intuitive Academy podcast.
So I went through that because I got really, really confused, where there was some of these laws that I've known it as one thing and it's coming up as another one, and I got confused. But that's fine, because we've got the law of thermodynamics.
Yeah.
The first law of thermodynamics, which Albert just so succinctly put, is the same law of the conservation of energy. It's just been broken down into different avenues of science to fit what they wanted to say. What I wanted to quickly go into, in terms of just this energy, I want to go into science for a second, because we've gone really out there in observations of energy fields, etc.
Yeah.
Einstein came up with his wonderful theory of the mass energy equivalence, where he came out with E equals mc squared. Everyone's heard it. Everyone knows that it means mass times the speed of light squared is the mass energy equivalence formula, right? We know that. It is still used today. It is critical to every measurement we have in terms of speed, velocity, positioning, global positioning systems. Everything requires this tiny little nuance of maths, where he knew that time needed to be factored in, that speed of light needed to be factored in. What I wanted to tell you is, when you take this formula and you talk about energy, right? And we talk about energetic bodies, and I was like, well, how much can do that do, Petra? Like, really? Here's an example that they gave me in a really heavy science forum. 1 gram of water, if you put it through the E equals mc squared formula, if its whole mass was converted into pure energy, which is something energy and mass is constantly converting in our universe with a fixed energy field, that's happening all of the time. That 1 gram of water has the equivalent energy of 20,000 tons of TNT exploding. I just got to pause there. That's 1 gram of water. What are we made up of, Tay?
Water.
Water.
my brain exploded, because we're made up of freaking 70 to 80% water.
Water. And like, that just seems like, well, it seems like an irrelevant piece of information. If you think that's irrelevant, then literally go to the other ones, all of those websites I shut down, because that's the place you need to be.
Yeah.
Because that's not irrelevant. That is absolutely critical to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Now, also, I'm going to go off. We've got, lots of theories around, energy and how energy works in the world.
Yes.
But just coming back to some philosophers of Plato time, Socrates, different people that were talking about it, in terms of a thing called quintessence, which was the elusive fifth substance that went with the 4 other elements, the earth, wind, fire, and air of our universe. And this was right back when they were talking about, as you mentioned, dualism, that we have a spiritual body and a physical body. And they have to work in harmony. Like we've been talking about this in different ways for millennia.
Yeah.
So when I was doing this and I was looking into all of the science behind it, and the meridians just keep popping up. Meridians and meridians. Meridians have been tested and researched and endeavored to be debunked more than any of the other ones, because the other ones are supposed to be an energetic practice, whereas meridians are supposed to be actually a healing system.
Yeah.
Right? You can use an energy practice to heal, but you also always have to do it with a disclaimer.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously traditional Chinese medicine, there's no disclaimer. This is going to acupressure, acupuncture, reflexology, all of these things are based on a system and they will work, right? Is what's put forward. Okay, I'm like, fair enough, all good. Would you believe I found about 4 different scientific studies when we're talking about the meridians that actually are saying this stuff is real. This stuff's not just a whole bunch of crazy people talking about the arm ting yin meridian and the large intestine, which is the arm yang ming meridian. These are all beautiful things that are linked to not only an element and a system within your body, they're also linked to a time of day, which I was like, this is beautiful. There's a 20
across something like that. Yep.
Yeah, there's a 24-hour clock that goes around these meridians.
Yeah.
So, okay, so there's meridians. Chinese have been dealing with this as part of their medical practice for a very, very long time. Reflexology has been studied. Yeah. I love reflexology, if I could say it, because when I was playing with this with my daughter, and when I say playing with it, she likes getting a foot massage because at the end of the day, she just wants, Mum, can you massage my feet? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was saying, I've been, I wonder if the reflexology works, like whatever. I hadn't read onto it, but I'd said, I'm going to feel your foot and I'm going to try and work out if this was something, can I make you feel something in another part of your body by touching this nerve, like touching certain, because I'm like thinking, oh, I think this is going to be the whatever.
Because reflexology is where you've got like the different sections of your feet that correspond with different sections of your body. Is that right?
Exactly. And it's very, and reflexology is not against the meridian work. There are 6 meridians that run through our feet. So there's 6 meridians that run through, 3 on one side, 3 on the other. There's meridians that run through our hands, and there's meridian that runs through our ears, which are the points where you touch when you want to do reflexology. When I was doing this with Kirsty, we were able to actually, without looking at it, we looked at it later to check whether we were right or wrong, and we were like bang on. Like there was so many of them was like, oh, that's this and that's the other. And for people that say this is like crazy, we know this in science with the nervous system that you can do something here and it can hurt somewhere else.
Somewhere else, exactly. Yeah.
And we know this. I know this because I just being around stuff, when someone had surgery on their abdomen area, they had a really, really painful shoulder. And, it was only when the doctor come in and said, oh, yeah, that's that nerve. It'll take X amount of time to calm down. So love this. What I like in terms of the science around this, there's a couple of different things that they say that how reflexology works. There's nerve impulse theory. So it's that you're basically stimulating certain reflex points in the nervous system. And that is generating a autonomic nervous system response. That makes sense. Hemodynamic theory proposes that stimulation from reflexology enhances the blood flow. And then there's the energy-related theory in relation to just energy blockages in terms of meridians, etc. There were studies done on this where people actually dissected bodies and tried to find correspondence to the meridians and reflexology points to see if there was any correlation. And there was a correlation not in the nerve tissue, but in the membrane, the fibrous sheath that covers and separates body organs. You know the name of that. What is
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. So there was shown notable scientific research that linked that fibrous membrane to where the meridians were and how the meridians worked, right? So that's pretty okay. That's all right. Does that mean anything? Maybe not, until a completely independent study that wasn't looking for that found exactly the same thing. That through looking at these membranes, they found a link that they could virtually map out the meridians that had been laid down by Chinese medical practitioners from 3,000 whenever they did it. Like it was how long ago was it when they first came up with this? I had this 5,000 years ago. It was in India and China, and the same system of reflexology was documented in Egypt.
Yeah, right. So that
with pictures of feet, with all of the corresponding little things on the feet.
Yeah.
But okay, that's not really conclusive in terms of science. But I'm just going to throw you a couple of things. Ready to bet? I like to blow everyone's minds at least once. If the 1 gram of water didn't do it. Okay, ready?
Prepare yourselves.
Prepare yourselves for this. When they were studying the meridians through the body, they found that there was multiple ways where we could see the meridians through looking at different things. One of them was electric characteristics, high electrical potential, conductance and capacitance, and low impediments and resistance, basically meaning the electricity that ran through where the meridians were supposed to be traveled at a different rate. It was tangible and it was notable.
Right.
Okay, fine. We also have ionic studies where we can show that there's certain ionic what do you call them, elements, so calcium, potassium, chlorine, and another one that I can't think of off the top of my head, that actually are in higher concentrations around meridians. Now, all of those things, you said one of them, potassium, was related.
Yeah, so it's an electrolyte which regulates the electrical impulses through your nervous system, and which is, why they give people potassium chloride and shit when you're having heart issues or, you're getting silly and stuff. It's because it literally kickstarts, like they regulate and control the pulses that are going through your body.
Well, chlorine is also released when there is energy transfer or energy use in the body. It's like a byproduct of the process. And along these transcutaneous channels, it was measurable.
Yeah.
The differences. Not only was it measurable in terms of the CO2 emission that was found around these meridian lines was different in healthy people than people that were suffering from a serious medical condition.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty conclusive. But I'm going to keep going because it wasn't just that. There's thermal characteristics. Infrared radiant tracking along the meridians showed that there was temperature variances not only in the meridians, but when the meridians were stimulated. So you can tangibly record the change along the meridian line.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've got to be warm or you've got to be cold. Does that mean anything? Well, maybe acoustic characteristics. So they put they put sounds as a vibration through the meridians, and they found that there was a change they could track the meridian line through the acoustic characteristics. It's bidirectional conduction velocity, which is similar to sharp wave or sine wave activity, can be seen through the meridians.
That's actually fucking cool because that comes back to toning, which a lot of people do for chakra healing. And the Vedics believed that there were certain sounds which corresponded with each of the chakra points that would help clear
exactly
energies within them.
So all of these things that we've said that are just sound healing, just it's a bunch of bollocks. We're saying, look, it might not be bollocks. It might be you who think it's a bunch of bollocks, that you're a bunch of bollocks, is what I'm saying. Because we took they actually measured along these lines with microwave frequency, and they were able to actually map the next acupoint along the meridian. So by sending these sound waves down, it actually, not only did it go down the meridian, it could actually highlight and, like, I'll say pulse, but they haven't used that word, but it was measurable in the next acupoint along that meridian line. We could map it.
That's
okay.
Fucking cool.
If that hasn't got you, optical characteristics. There is high luminescent properties and light waves spreading along our meridians. They can effectively, that's like saying you can photograph it.
We glow like the Na'vi.
Exactly.
We are connected to Awa.
We are. And these are within a 5 millimeter zone where we're measuring this down to.
Yeah.
So just to give you, again, to give you an idea, the rate of completely overlapping region was 92.97%, and the rate of basically consistent region was 6.72. The results indicated that meridians and acupoints had high luminous biophysical properties.
That's so fucking cool.
Like, I'm like saying, so we can track electricity and the ions within our bodies. We can track them, that they're more concentrated around the meridians. There is thermal characteristic, acoustic characteristics. We have the right camera, we can photograph it.
Yeah.
Magnetic characteristics.
Important note in that, how come they haven't invented meridian photography yet? Because I mean, I know aura photography's out there, but I want to know what my meridians look like.
This is what these guys are doing, Tay. This is what these guys are doing. Now, this is where it gets so freaking freaky. These doctors are actually doing that because they did the magnetic characteristics of the meridians and the acupoints, and they measured it using, I just love it that I get to say this in a podcast, a superconducting quantum interference device.
Oh, you nailed it.
Yes. Otherwise known as squid. Squid. So they did that along with magnetic resonance imaging, which is an MRI, and they looked for isotopic characteristics, and they found the magnetic and the isotopic. So what we're basically saying is that in every one of our senses, and some things we can't sense, notably magnetics, they're all measurable. The conclusion that they came for here was the existence of meridians is scientifically supported. So we're going to the points now where people who want to poo-poo it, you can't poo-poo it. If you think it's going to be able to fix everything, well, you can poo-poo that because we haven't proved that yet, right? That's not proved, even though we can see that there's a difference in the meridian activity in a healthy person,
go to the doctor,
in a sick person.
Yeah.
So, yes, that doesn't prove healing, though. That proves what's broken.
But you know what's funny about, that the mentioning of that the flow is blocked in when you've got sickness and things like that, in less measurable in regards to a healthy person, like relating it back to, the chakras and things where they're sitting behind these, special glands and stuff throughout our body, and that they're having physiological processes and stuff that are impacting all of this. Something like that I got from, just looking at that aspect of it is that there's a lot of people who have issues with like diabetes and shit like that, but they're constantly feeding themselves crap and they're not taking care of themselves enough. And that, solar plexus is all about self-worth and value and things. And so when you don't value yourself, you don't take care of yourself, and then that leads to unhealthy physical behaviors, which then leads to disease and illness. And so if anything, we're not going to say it like you've got blocked solar plexus and that's why you've got diabetes, but there is like a like a spiritual.
There's a spiritual link between self-care and a lot of the predominant health issues that is
you don't
in
value
our society.
You're blocked in your solar plexus, which is leading you to these behaviors that are causing this disease. So
Yeah.
that, you know, neither one is going to prove or disprove, but there is an interweaving and an interconnection that happens there.
Yeah.
That's where I feel the mesh over happens.
Absolutely. And you know what? Science confirms it. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to do the mic drop on the science, because for all of those people out there that always say, oh, goodness, we've now like nailed it on crystals in terms of science. We've nailed it on meridians, which have very similar traits to chakras. There's just slightly different structure on how it works.
Yeah.
But a similar process in terms of blocking and unblocking and allowing energy to flow right through to our little fingertips.
Yeah.
We need to get it going all on rather than just down a central point, though, I think is what we can take in from this today.
It really feeds into the whole view of these ancient traditions supporting and honoring this concept of holistic well-being and holistic health.
Yeah.
Yourself.
Bring back the days when the medicine man was also the priest.
Yeah, exactly. Where there's too much division, there's too much wanting things to be in a box. And, you know, through our own spiritual gnosis as humanity has evolved through the various cultures, you know, beliefs and whatever, and even through our own like journeys, we're finding that sort of mindset is not serving anyone. Like, yes, we need medicine, but we also need to take care of our souls. We have the external being, the external heart, but we also have that ananda kanda that needs caring for, because dis-ease is in the soul and it creates disease.
Yep.
So that's
100%.
Equilibrium needs to come back. And also in that as well, and it's on both sides of the coin. You've got like the scientific Western medicine, whatever, that state, you know, we are the be all and end all. But then you've also got the uninformed, whitewashed, surface level spiritual practices that are saying, fuck all that. You just need to
you literally all you do is need to unblock your flow.
Literally.
And you'll be fine.
It's like, well, no, you're both wrong.
Yeah.
Like, you need to come to some consensus. Like, there needs to be that understanding, that depth of understanding with the philosophies which you're speaking, and then, you know, and cohesively interweaving that into our physical, which is tantra. So
yeah, I was going to say that. Isn't it funny? That takes you back there. It takes me back to Plato, because it's exactly that's effectively exactly what Plato said.
Yeah.
Which, you know, dude, did you get anything wrong? I want to know. I want to know where I look this up and I go, Plato, you were full of shit that day. What were you on? What drugs were you smoking?
You full of shit, son. And then next minute you're like, oh, fuck, he was actually on something.
He basically says that everybody, when you investigate, if you want to talk philosophy with him, first you have to understand, I can't remember if he said geometry or mathematics, but he basically says when you come to any endeavor, you need to understand logic and science, and not in terms of what we call science, but you need to understand logic, and then you apply logical method to what you're doing. And then you'll be able to talk philosophy. Then you will be able to talk spirituality, because you're not just taking in what you've read on, you know, Bill's blog that tells you that, oh, all you got to do is, you know, X, Y, and Z, and you'll be right.
Yeah.
I was really disappointed. Once again, I've been really disappointed in this new age spiritual community, and the crap they're willing to put their name against.
Yeah, and literally claiming to be masters or whatnot, or informed, and you know, there's part to blame for the perpetuation of misinformation, right? They've learnt this from this person, so they've carried on that lineage.
Yeah.
Which has become quite the catchphrase.
Yes.
You have to be a part of a lineage. Well, I'm sorry, but if your lineage is based on the Idiot's Guide to Chakra Healing, I'm not sure if that's something to be proud of.
You're so right. I love that.
But it's true. I feel like an idiot. You know, I work with chakric energies quite a bit in my work and stuff, but like just delving that little bit deeper and learning the actual systems I feel so much more informed.
I know. I really feel like for all that I knew about it, that was maybe 2% of what I now know.
Yeah.
And I think what I now know is probably about 3% of the whole. Do you know what I mean? I still, I've learned a lot by researching this, but what it's really shown me is there's so much more behind this. It's not this simplified thing. It might be really simple on how it works, and it's just about getting energy. Like, that's a simple concept. Allow the energy to flow you through your body. Simple concept. But there's so much more behind it. We're doing it a disservice. We are really doing it a disservice with our 7 chakras and our whatevers. We're doing it a disservice. There's more to it.
Mysteries of this universal design that we are emulated after and live within are kind of like our oceans. Fucking deep, deep and unending and 80% unexplored.
Yeah.
I think that's probably where we're going to have to leave it.
I know. That's perfect.
What are we talking about next week? It's going to have to be...
I'm looking at my Excel spreadsheet because off the top of my head, I don't know. Do you know?
Find my paper. I found it.
Oh.
Near-death experiences. Should I?
Oh.
The light. Fuck, we just got to keep rolling with these heavy topics.
You know what's a real problem with that? What's a real problem with that? If we were just talking about near-death experiences, no problem, right? It's just personal stuff.
Yeah.
Let's just do it. We can do it. We can record it right now. But I remember when we were talking about that, way back when we were doing ghosts and hauntings.
Yes.
And some of the research at the time with scientists that were working with patients that were in critical care and had near-death experiences, he was blown away, and he actually went from having one viewpoint to having a completely different viewpoint. So I'm going to have to dredge and find all that information.
There's so many documentaries and things too now about recording people's near-death experiences and stuff like that. It's crazy.
I so wish when we first started this, I had put it all into Word documents, as what I'm doing now, so that I can go back to it. Because even
you forget to do a table. The one time.
I know, but who would have thought? Who would have thunk it that we were going to have so many levels of connection in quite random topics? Like we're just basically knocking off one fun topic to talk about after another. Who would have thought what's in our oceans would connect to planets, which would connect to chakras, who would have thought that? I wouldn't have thought that. I didn't even think that. Otherwise, I would have kept my notes. That I can tell you for sure.
Yes.
But okay.
That's all about being an empowered intuitive. We just got to find the patterns.
Got to find the patterns, man. And there's so many of them, and they're beautiful.
Well, I suppose we should end this podcast by talking about a cat. So, as always, remember, people, curiosity may have killed a few cats, probably because they didn't go to their regular Reiki practitioner to get their chakra checkups, and he was all like, bruv, you've got like a blocked pineal crown chakra. You need to unblock that shit. Here's some clear quartz. Off you go. Cat's all like, I just had a headache. I could have went to the doctor and dropped some Panadol, but okay. There's no growth in ignorant bliss.
We are learning that is so true. Who would have thought it was so true when we first came up with that idea?
Let's come up with a really cool catchphrase that emulates what this podcast is all about. Then we didn't realize we were signing up to our own learning program of enlightenment.
It's Jacob's ladder for us, really.
Yeah. Calling ourselves out on our own shit. Oh, okay.
Oh, that was really fun. I really enjoyed doing that.
Me too.
So I'm looking forward to next week when we're talking about near-death experiences, which will be really lightweight to this.
Here's hoping.
Here's hoping.
Next week. Bye.
Bye, everyone.